Discouraging numbers. Early data from the NFHS5 show decline in key anthropometric and nutrition indicators. With a debilitating death toll and an economic recession, India has had among the worst effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. So India is facing two problems right now, like any other country, but the situation of India is much worse than any other country. Because its death toll is going, and even economic recession or the problems with economy is at its peak. There is anecdotal evidence that the pandemic and the lockdown measures have led to new complications which are related to food consumption and food security for impoverished Indians. So, along with these problems of the COVID-19 and the virus infections, along with the problems of the virus infections and the debilitating death toll, now we got two other problems: the security of the food security problem, and even food sanitation and the healthy food problem, mainly for the impoverished Indians, or for the poor Indians, or poverty. So the the poor people, they're facing problems now with food security and food sanitation. But an express indication of the possible scale of the crisis can be gleaned from the data from the newly released National Family Health Survey 2019 to 2020, which was conducted before the pandemic and its impact. So, if anyone wants a if anyone wants to know and clear explanation of how the situation is going to be, then they can refer to the newly released National Family Health Survey, uh, which was based between 2019 and 2020, which was conducted before the pandemic and its impact. But the problem with this record is that it was published before the pandemic started. So obviously, the pandemic started in the last month of 2019, right? So they wouldn't have knew. So they won't. So they did not know about the pandemic. The partially released early data from the NFHS5 for 22 states or union territories, the data for UP, MP, and Tamil Nadu, and Rajasthan, Punjab, Jharkhand, and Odisha are not yet out. Shows a disappointing record on metrics such as child nutrition and adult anthropometric measurements, suggesting that the exacerbation now of an already fraught situation. So now there was one record was released. It was the NFHS5, and it only counts for 22 states and union territories. But even in that record, the big states like Rajasthan, Punjab, Jharkhand, and Odisha are not included. So anyway, it again shows a disappointing record. It shows that especially for the poor children, the food security is not good at all. And even for the adults, anthropometric measures, they're not suggesting good news. The exaggeration now of an already fraught situation. So the the record said that the 2019 to 2020 record said that we are going to have problems from the year 2020, but this record said that we will be having problems, mainly with food security, even that especially with children who are in poverty. NFHS5 shows that the four key metrics for the for the nutritional status of children declined in 2019 to 20 compared to the levels in 2015 to 2016. NFHS4 in many of the surveyed states. So the state of food nutrition in the case of children, especially who are in poverty, their situation of food security have been their situation was aggravated from 2015 to 16, which was the NFHS4 test. So now in 2019 period to 2020 period, the test is NFHS5. The situation has aggravated, means it became much worse than the situation of the food security for children than in 2005 to 6 15 to 6. In many of the surveyed states, Gujarat, Maharashtra, and West Bengal recorded an increase in the percentage of anemic and wasted children compared to the survey, even to even the survey which was conducted in 2005 to 2006. Um, the biggest states like Gujarat, Maharashtra, and West Bengal, these recorded even an increase in the percentage of anemic and childhood stunning, anemic and wasted children. So, in the states like Gujarat and Maharashtra, two more problems arisen: the problems with the weight and height of the children, and also and also the and also the anemic problem with the children. It's less oxygen in their blood. Anemic and children compared um, this record, which was taken in 2019 to 2020 period, the results of this record is much worse than the results of the survey which was conducted in 2005 to 2006. In the key indicator of the childhood stunting, there has been an increase in 13 of the 22 states or UTs in comparison to NFHS 4, with a noticeable improvement only in Bihar and Assam. So, according to the NFHS 4 and the NFHS 5 records, only the states Bihar and Assam have showed good news, because they have showed a sign of a decline in the childhood stunting. Even here, the reduction in stunting numbers is lower than the government's targets. So, as you all know, the Indian government always keeps targets on every issue. So, in the same way, even on the issue of the childhood stunting, the targets have not been met. In fact, the situations have become aggravated, as we know. Bihar has shown a promising decline of 5.4% points in stunting, but still retains the highest percentage of stunted children among big states. So, here's the point. Bihar and Assam, even though those states are the only two states which have shown a decline in the childhood stunting, the thing is that Bihar actually contains more population. So because of that, even though it showed a decline, it still is the state which has the highest percentage of stunted children. That is 42.9%. 42.9% of the children are stunted, and 5.4% is the decline which it showed in the 42.9%. On the flip side, NFHS 5 also flags improvements in other factors that contribute to malnutrition and poor health outcomes, in access to sanitation and clean cooking fuels. So, NFHS 5 not only shows the facts or its observations, but it also says the reasons why this has happened. For suppose in the case of food nutrition and security, the reasons for no access to sanitation, and also no access to clean cooking fuels. In indicators which are related to women's well-being, spousal violence declined in 17 of 22 states, child marriage declined in 18, and access to the bank accounts rose in all of them compared to NFHS 4. So when you compare the NFHS 5 record to the NFHS 4 record, we only saw good news in these five things. The child marriages the child marriages declined in 18 states out of the 22 states, and also spousal violence or the women violence has decreased in 17 states out of 22, which is not bad. And also um, um, and also access to the bank accounts of the people have increased in all the states. So this is not a good news, even though it is so this is not a bad news, even though it should increase, because it is the access to bank accounts. But the persistence of the poor anthropometric measures, which are related to hunger and nutrition, nutrition suggests that the existing programs to address them, such as Poshan Abhiyan, will need a push and focus to meet targets such as 2% point decrease in childhood stunting every year. So, while we have disadvantages of the increase in the bank accounts and decline in the spousal violence and child marriages, we have other problems like the problems of food nutrition and food security. So there are some organizations in India like Poshan Abhiyan. Now, for example, Poshan Abhiyan has it has a target of reducing the child stunting by 2% um, in every year. So it now it's a chance for the Poshan Abhiyan for the Poshan Abhiyan organization to prove itself. More importantly, the complications arising out of the pandemic should make the center and states refocus on the welfare delivery as concreted strategy to eradicate hunger and extreme poverty. So now's the chance for the state and even the center to focus on these problems and solve them. This is an imperative. Um, this is an imperative that would not just meet the UN Sustainable Development Goal targets, but will also ensure that the well-being of citizens in a that that showed significant promise in combining economic growth and general welfare in the last couple of decades before encountering major reversals lately. So this is an important situation for the government of India, not only to meet the targets of the UN, not only to meet the targets of the UN's of the UN Sustainable Development Goal, not just not to impress them, but also to protect the health of the citizens in a country which has promised um, safety before decades the pandemic occurred. So we did not know about the pandemic in before decades. So India has promised it. So even though it should keep up its promise, and if we complete all the goals or the targets, like um, um, like resecuring food security and food nutrition, we would not only gain the trust of the citizens, but we would also become but we would also be considered good in the case of the UN's Sustainable Development Goal targets. Thank you.